You need to know when to do it, and more importantly, when not to do it.
You've bled once or twice in your career, Stevie, and sometimes you even did it on purpose.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. The ratio of hard weight to me volunteering myself is very, very lopsided. Not in my favor.
Yeah, I even screen grabbed you once, and it was straight after when Chris Masters did the nose busting Polish hammer kind of thing. It's like, oh god. So I was wondering what the ratio was, 10-1.
Pretty close. Pretty close. The odds of me doing it myself as far as getting color are like the odds of the Jaguars winning the Super Bowl, if you're a football fan. Sorry, I'm not that's not a slight on Tony Khan, by the way. Everybody thinks I'm making fun of him.
Speaking of which, I've just bought a Jaguar. It's my first nice car in my entire life.
Hopefully, this show gets up to that income stream. Thank you very much, James.
Oh yeah, no worries. But it's the reason I was wanted. So I've got a Jag because you've got to say it like that. But I like having a Jag. Anyway, enough
I
about
never
the
knew
Jag.
somebody in their
Right.
20s could go through a midlife crisis. Congratulations.
Who's in their 20s?
Oh, I thought that was you.
Oh no, apparently I'm either a sort of like overgrown fetus, or which I basically am. Uh, I look young for my age.
I'm the 53-year-old guy playing video games, so there.
Of Christ, you look young for your age, for God's sake. You're as fit as a fiddle. Someone, I did read this comment once, and someone wrote in and said that you looked like how Shawn Michaels hoped he'd looked at your age.
Oh, that's me. That's me. Did you pin that comment? No.
You'll have to find it and pin it yourself.
I 2 episodes or 2 clips, I've pinned the person the best one was, Stevie hasn't worn sleeves since the Right to Censor. I pinned that comment. So, if you do a friendly roasting of me, we will try to pin the comment for the best one.
There we go. We'll fight over who can pin it first. You'll win though, because I never read the comments, or I rarely anyway. Anyway, for the finisher, we might not do a false finish. This might be the finisher to end the show on. So as I say, blading, etc. I did the intro. Having said all what I said before, how long were you in the business before you discovered the art of blading or the razor blades? When did you first discover that this was even a thing?
Now, even as retired, I still haven't discovered the art of how to do it properly. So, I will say if I was the ECW wrestler everybody thought ECW wrestlers were, I would have the Dusty Rhodes or Abbey roadmap because I do not do it very well. The first time I discovered the secret, like they bleed that way, was when I was on TV with ECW. The first time I ever gigged was the double dog collar match. And I was terrified. That's what the Paul, stop, because I had no idea what I was doing. Um, I got hard weighed many, many times after that and before that with Raven and the Pitbulls and doing things with Luna and Dramer. Always got hard weight on top of the head or the back, stuff like that. The next time I remember really doing it, oh, the cage match where I was locked in a cage with Terry Gordy. It was called Ultimate Jeopardy. So it was Dreamer, Gordy, I forget who else, and it was me, Raven, and Brian Lee. If I got pinned, Raven lost the world title. It was really cool concept. But I started in the Eagle's Nest. Somebody started outside the ring, somebody started in the ring. Gordy came to get me, busted me open on the Eagle's Nest, and I remember this shot, really awesome shot by production. I was on the cage, Gordy was beating me, and I was kind of hanging onto the cage, and I was like this, and they did just zoomed into my face, just pouring blood. And the funny part was, I had a picture of me doing the karate chops on an airbrush shirt, and my blood got onto the character. So it was like a weird kind of inception of bleeding. The airbrush character had blood on its face too. So that was the next time. That was 1996. Then after that, I'd have to say probably I really didn't get color myself until Victory Road, where I got the taser and got color against Abyss. Since that time, not really ever at all, except hard way. I've gotten hard way. And when PJ hit me with the beer bottle in from episode 15, that even though it was candy glass, that hard weighed me, but not enough to get staples. It just like little like holes in my head that bled, but very few times. See, this is also as a worker, not as an athlete, not as a wrestler, as a worker, James and everybody out there. You need to know when to do it and more importantly, when not to do it. If it doesn't make sense, why do it just to do it? If it's just a cool spot, why are you gonna leave a scar on your head or your arm or anywhere else? Unless it's a meaningful moment, finish, you get hard weight, you can't help it. But do you get what I mean? The first thing you should ask whenever you say or someone comes to you and says, "Hey, we want you to get color." You have to do the Raven scientific method and use every single thought to try to disprove why it makes sense. And then if it makes sense after all that, you go, okay, that's cool. But if, spots are one thing, but when you're cutting yourself, you want to do that with the most amount of meaning as possible. So, like I said, hard way you can't help. But then again, if you get hard way like Drew did, make it count. And he did.
Who showed you how to do it the first time? In fact, before I ask you that, who suggested blading the first time? Was it Paul? Was it Raven? Was it someone else?
Raven. Raven, and he showed me how to do the thing with the wrist tape and all that stuff and everything. Um, he was the one because I was not good at it. He was the one that developed the spot of uh, basically Gary's going to run the. Oh, I remember the double dog car. I'm sorry. Buell cut a promo saying I broke my arm and I couldn't compete, so it was going to be like Pitbull number 2 against Raven or a handicap match, 2 out of 3 falls. Gary ran to the back to get me, and I came out bleeding already. So it was kinda cool that way that I was and Joey Styles is like, "I saw him in the back, his arm is fine, he's a coward," or whatever word, he didn't use coward, but basically that's the way the setup was, that I was such a coward, I didn't even wanna come out for the match. So they had to go back and get me. So, but Raven knew that I could not cover it up properly, that I could not do it efficiently, so he came up with that spot.
So, how did the first time go? So, did you do it yourself, or did someone offer to do it for you?
I did it myself and probably should have offered I took somebody's offer to do it. I know there's been stories about referees gigging wrestlers and people in the back. Dude, you have to have an incredible amount of trust at that point. I didn't even trust myself, much less anybody else. And I was just getting kind of smartened up to the fact that the boys play very, very, how should I say, sick ribs on each other at times. And to me, I thought somebody doing this would be funny to some people in the locker room. So I did it myself. But I guarantee you they probably wouldn't have did as bad of a job as I did. I think I still have the 2 little scars like here and here, but they're so deep.
Oh, so you just went in way too deep then, essentially. Did you like going with the corner?
I didn't do a cross straight, I did angled. Don't ask me why. Ha ha.
Right. So, did no one actually tell you to like not do it that way, or did you just guess? Were you just left to your own devices?
Well, Raven told me definitely not to do the roadmap. You see, here's the thing. You're in a match. You're so nervous. You know you got to go out there and pull probably 30 or 40 total. You know you're getting thrown through a table. You know that you're going to be on Raven's shoulders and get choke slammed off the top rope by 911 who does it for real. So think about how nervous I was to where, listen, I didn't have this mirrorless camera to show me what level is. So, so I'm like this. So to me, this was level.
Well, if you were in the back, why don't you just like get a mirror and do it?
Do you know the budget of ECW? You think we had a mirror somewhere back
Yeah, I'm
there?
sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I know you didn't have facilities. I should
Good Lord, half the time we didn't have a curtain to go through.
Where's the best place on the head to cut? Okay, let's pretend you're not Viano 3 or Dusty Rhodes or Abdullah the Butcher or someone like that, or New Jack, for goodness sake. But is it more in the center and straight across, like, where there's like a crease in the head, or is it more hairline that's better?
My opinion, because I do have more in this spot after I did that initial one, is right up here towards the hairline. Because when your hair's down, it's going to flow further. If you go here, this part here will not be bloody. See what I mean? The higher you go here, without cutting your hair, obviously, higher on the forehead, the hairline will also flow more down this way. And also, when you lay down, it's going to flow into your hair better. That's just my guess. But what I would suggest is, by the way, in 2024, do we even need blood? That's a question for everybody in the comments.
I like blood.
Are we so desensitized that blood doesn't make a difference?
No, I think for the Hell in a Cell it really worked because it was the end. Because it was a blood feud. It was the end of the feud. That's when blood. Obviously, that's when, if blood is going to be used, unless it's an angle to build to the, crescendo, then that's really when it should be used. I've never really had a problem with blood, but I understand a lot of people do, and I suspect more. I suspect more women than men have problems seeing blood, or would find it more distasteful. I figure as well.
It's from a selfish perspective. Say, okay, by the way, they should have said these guys are never going to wrestle again. I don't think they ever put that out there. The last time they were going to wrestle each other, that would have made it much more special. Here's the way I look at it too. Say in my case, at 53, I'm going to go back and I'm going to wrestle. Now, number one, I'm going to make sure it's a good storyline. I make sure it has a lot to it. I'm coming back. I know I'm not going to come out of it the same I went into it, especially at my age. If it was a heel that I was always fighting from underneath, much like PJ was with me in that episode 15 breakdown. And it was the only match I was coming back for. And I was literally in a rocky situation. I'm an underdog. I don't have much of a chance. The blood will emphasize that even more, that I am so far down. I'm so far underneath. I'm such an underdog and I'm in so much peril that I need the fans to help give me the energy and the motivation to continue and hopefully win this match. That makes sense. Do you see what I mean? The sense of urgency, the one off, I'm kind of out of my element because I haven't been in the ring for so long and I get busted open. I'm in some serious jeopardy. I'm in trouble. That makes sense.
One more as far as cutting goes. I suspect you don't want to do it in the middle of the forehead because there is a vein running straight to the top. So I suspect either side is optimal.
Either side or not too deep. I went across this way and did go through the center in that Victory Road match, and you saw it come down. Now, once again, it could be a placebo. I took a couple aspirin. I drank one beer, and that was it. The bad part is for me that I'm very much a lightweight. My wife will tell you. I can have one of those White Claws or whatever and be buzzed off it. So drink, yeah, of course. What are you talking about, man? Dude, if I do that Hulk Hogan beer test, which I still have that 6-pack, if I do it, chances are if I drink the whole beer, I will be buzzed during the show. Then the real truth will come out.
Is it a sad state of affairs that I could have all 6 and you probably wouldn't know the difference?
Oh, told you I was lightweight.
Well, do you know what? I had to train myself to be able to drink. And trust, I got the worst advice once. This was years ago from my old sensei, I guess. And I said, "Man, I just can't drink very much, because everyone's out partying all the time." And his advice was, drink 3/4 of a bottle of wine every night. I was like, "Wow, what great advice!"
Was he a former professional wrestler?
Well, he was a lot of things. I'll tell you about that off air. Anyway, that's a story in itself. Back to the blading. Did you disinfect afterwards, or did you have the wrestling mentality and just have a quick rinse in the shower?
Until WWE, probably a quick rinse in the shower, but we didn't have showers at ECW, so we would just go to the lo there was lots of times at the Travel Lodge or whatever restaurant or Pat Steaks, Gino Steaks, wherever you went, where the boys would still be in their gear, bloodied, ordering a cheesesteak or going to the bar.
Isn't that just like more of a thing that so many of the ECW wrestlers just wrestled in their clothes anyway?
Yeah, a lot of guys did. Well, my clothes, I wouldn't walk around with my clothes or else I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Oh, with the belly? Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Uh, now, now we've seen like certain ones, like like Eddie Guerrero, or I wrote another example down. Who are some of the blade jobs that have gone really bad? Oh, Bill Alfonso, for goodness' sake! How could I forget? Uh, yeah, with you personally watching, I know of the 3 times that you've mentioned that you've done it. None of them went too bad. It went broadly fine, I guess. But from what you've seen personally, not on TV, can you think of any that went really, really wrong and why they went wrong as far as cutting?
Man, I can't think. The only thing that really stands out as the worst blade job ever was New Jack on Mass Transit. Yep. No, but I'm just saying, if you want to talk about like the sickest, like someone getting their forehead cut and bleeding, that was the worst I've ever seen. The Eddie Guerrero one was that was almost a sprouter, that it came out. That was a really bad one. Who else? Vince's blade jobs were pretty legit against Hulk Hogan. That was the one where he came up like the devil over the apron. If we only knew.
Mhm.
Shawn Michaels, he bled against, I believe, right? Oh, yeah, was that the Shawn where he left on the stretcher and did the middle finger?
I can't remember. I know there was one. I know there was one that Vince took a ladder to the head, and Vince didn't even put his hand up. He just stood there and just watched the ladder come towards his head, and just took it and went down.
Well, because Vince had that thing, if I can do it, if I do it, then you can do it. But it doesn't mean it should be done at all in the same vein. And that ladder spot was, yeah, that was Shawn WrestleMania 22, because 21 was Shawn versus Kurt Angle. Awesome match.
Where do other wrestlers hide their blades? I've written down some potential examples, but what are the most usual and what are the most unusual?
Most usual is the wrist tape. Other most usual is the ref passing you the blade. Some would have it under the ring apron. The most unusual, and I tried to do it because I had great respect for him and he was trying to teach me an old way of doing it. Terry Funk would have me put the blade in my mouth under my tongue. And that's what he would do.
Hey,
That was the old way of doing it.
okay, I honestly
Because
thought you were going to say
because they didn't even want people seeing him reach for the wrist tape. It would just be boom and put it back in his mouth and then either spit it out under the ring or something like that. Or sometimes he said people would swallow them.
okay, right. So when I've heard that before, keeping it in the mouth, but I always imagined it was like in the cheek. You just close your mouth, but he actually kept it under his tongue.
I've heard that story too, but when he was trying to get me to do it, it was under the tongue. And there were house shows. And the funny part was there was a couple of house shows where I was supposed to get color, but I would say something and the blade would like I'm like talking and I talk. I have like my tongue just I always had some kind of issue with my tongue coming out or whatever. So I'd be like, the blade would just come out. So poor Terry, like, Stevie, you stupid son of a bitch. What are you doing? I lost the blade, Terry. What are you don't have me cut a
Nah.
promo before I'm supposed to, you know, like, everybody, we're taking over.
Did you at least take like the Gillette like handle out first?
No, we didn't put the whole razor in our mouth. Come on, dude. We tape up the little thing from the actual razor thing.
You saw through me there. You saw through me.
Now
Cool.
today, you have to literally tell the kids, take the razor because then they would be like, oh, 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 oh.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I accidentally bought a Gillette razor that had a battery in it and it vibrated. So imagine if you turn that, trying to do whatever you got to do. Who are the best wrestlers at blading and not making it obvious?
Terry Funk. Terry Funk. I think Abdullah would do the thing where he would like you hit him, he'd do that. You know what I mean? That's a big trope of wrestlers. If you hit me, I just start doing. You ever see them do that as a joke?
Oh yeah. Oh, what? And just pretend.
Pretend like, oh, you hit me. Like, and sometimes in the ring they would do it, and I'd be like, come on. I mean, you're making it more of a joke than it needs to be.
I was going to say, do you know who did that once in a match? And it was on Raw, and I remember this. Goldust. He was the one where he was pretending to be his dad, Dusty Rhodes. He was doing the artist.
He was like telling Brad, it was against Bradshaw, and he goes, "You better bump for me, you big son of a bitch." Right?
Yeah, that's the one. He does it in the same match where he punches him, and then he just turns around and goes, but no one caught it.
Because that's what Dusty would do. So it's like it was inside, but it was an accurate impersonation. Yeah, that was funny where
I wrote down.
if Bradshaw was beating him up, he rolled out of the ring, grabbed the mic, and said, "You better start bumping your ass off." Like, it's so fun.
That was such a win of a segment. I love that segment, man. Who were the worst? I've written down Lou Albano. He may be the unquestioned Lord and champion of most obvious cutting himself, but who else?
I think there was an era in AEW where it was really bad, where it was caught to the point where they would put it up all the time. I think there was a Jericho one. Dude, it's so tough to do. The cameraman has to literally, like in my match with Abyss at Victory Road, and you know how, and people probably know by this point, how OCD I am about the details. I went to the camera people, I went to the truck, and I said, please, I know you guys know, but when he rams me into the steps, he's going to do it over and over again. And then there's going to be a big one where I take a back bump. When I do that, please, please, please shoot towards Abyss, close up and away from me, like you're back to me. So, and then if you could turn and zoom in on me after I turn over and I look at you, they did it. You just don't want to leave anything to chance because how many times, and it's not Jericho's fault or anybody else, but you cut to the guy that did the violence that made you bleed. Give me 5 to 10 seconds. That's all I need. But how many times did the camera people catch everybody bleeding?
Punk. In AEW, I think they caught Punk.
They did. They totally, dude, in AEW was like, I guess they bet how many times can we catch them bleeding? Whoever catches them the most wins this pile of money because it seemed like, oh, they're bleeding. Get it. Get it. Cut the camera 3. They're bleeding.
I had Larry Zbyszko on about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. I can't remember, roughly around that time. And I remember rewatching, the time he turns on Bruno, the really famous one. It's Allentown or one of those tapings. And Bruno gigged so obviously, he might as well have had an exploding scoreboard behind him. But the thing is, we're talking back in 1980.
You got to stop right there. What this metaphor of the exploding scoreboard? I don't know why I'm going to be laughing all week about that. What is an exploding scoreboard? Please tell me.
Oh, for God's sake, like sports events, then the fireworks go out, touchdown.
Oh, with the Titantron, they have it up on the Titantron.
Honestly, I mean, it's bad enough with the wig on his head. Point, you might as well, and then you've got him to go woo. It was so obvious.
Hey, he had some fake cane hair going for a little bit, Bruno. It was.
I know, but he almost had the Marge Simpson starter kit.
Oh, here's what I wanted to say. Fake cane with Sideshow Bob. That was the hair.
Oh, was he? I don't know. I'm sticking with Paul Stanley. Although I did see someone. I actually watched. I read the Wrestle Crap write up of it, and they said the guy from Winger.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Kip Winger, I think his name was. Hey, by the way, side note, I told Sean Careless. He puts over the show. He says he's a big fan. Sean, I'm looking right at you. Sorry, Vince, I'm looking at the camera. Sean Careless, I want my Lieutenant Worf Klingon award for being in the WWE the longest at the time. They used to have awards. I won one. It was called, I'm a Star Trek fan too. You have Lieutenant Worf Klingon, keeping your job for a long time award. You owe it to me. Send it to me.
I know that guy's name. Did he? Did he write for Cracked at one?
No, it was something else.
Someone else.
It was another one.
This came up on Dutch's channel because I posted it. Was HIV, hepatitis, that kind of thing? You're bleeding a lot in the ring. You're on a filthy mat. That's a different segment. I understand. You know, you ringworm to staph infection, and I understand all that. But were you ever worried about bleeding, catching a bloodborne virus?
Yeah, always. Always worried about that. Obviously, we do things we don't want to do in wrestling all the time, it seems. We put ourselves in predicaments that are very dangerous and could have long lasting side effects. And that was something I worried about. I was really worried about staph infection and stuff like that because I would always seem to get mat burn on my elbows and stuff like that. But I only got staph infection once later in my career after WWE. Dude, and it sucked. But yeah, I would get blood tested on my own a lot. WWE was way more careful, and we would get blood tests and other things done on a yearly basis. But yeah, I mean, I really did worry about that. But man, whatever you believe in, I believe in the grace of God. It just didn't happen as much. Wrestlers are incredibly lucky. You think about all the situations that we put ourselves in voluntarily or involuntarily, and we've really come out of we don't come out of it unscathed, but a lot less scathed than we should be. That common sense should have us have. So yeah, I did worry about that.
I'll finish on this. How do you feel physically after hardway, blade, whatever it might be, bleeding copiously? How does it affect you personally? Do you feel drained? Does it get the adrenaline going? Physically, immediately afterwards, how do you feel?
During the match, the adrenaline, but like I said, it's a double-edged sword because you run the risk of a lot of things happening with your blood pressure, blood loss, bleeding out to a certain point. And then as the match goes on, if you are bleeding very profusely and quickly, like Drew, you start to kind of lose your bearings. Now, during the finish, maybe you'll forget, maybe you won't know. That's why the instincts of wrestlers are also incredibly underrated. To be able to not, maybe you're not thinking straight, but you kind of know what's going to happen and where you, because you've been in that situation and there's no, if you were young in your career without the experience, it's a lot more dangerous because you start panicking. You really should take it home right away if someone who's not experienced, because things can get bad real quick. But with somebody that's truly experienced, it's an amazing thing to watch to see a Terry Funk, a Drew McIntyre, the list is much longer than not of people that can function without all their faculties around them. Because it really happens. Now, post match, you have your natural adrenaline coming down, then the adrenaline from the blood loss, then the migraine sets in because it hurts. You got hit in the head with a toolbox. You probably got a concussion. Now you have to worry about all that. Then you go home and you're like, if you're smart, you have a wife, a significant other, you have family or friends that have to watch you because you can't go right to sleep after a show. If you have a concussion and that stuff going on, they're gonna have to wake you every half hour to an hour. That's why in most cases, like with Drew, I really do hope that WWE at least send him to the ER, if not the hospital, local medical facility, sorry, to stay overnight for observation. Those are really, in a really scary way, the make it or break it hours after that. And he might be like, I'm fine, I just got my bell rung. It can be very dangerous. And we're not aware of that because we're, like I said before, just like we think in our ego, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This is a storyline and this is the best work I've ever done. You need to look at it from the perspective of a normal person, using air quotes, that looks at you and say, you got hit in the head, you got rocked, you lost a lot of blood. we got to check on your half out. Let's go to the hospital. That's that's what it feels like. But man, most times guys will just, yeah, just staple my head. I'll go have some drinks, go right to the room and fall asleep and potentially never wake up.